Hey everyone, and welcome to this blues guitar lesson. This time we've put together 30 beginner licks, and the idea is to kind of allow us to build on what we did before, where we looked at 30 beginner riffs. So it kind of gets you kind of playing some riffs that you can kind of repeat. This is for people who want to get into playing a bit more improvisation, playing a bit more lead guitar, but they don't know where to begin, or they just need some things to play. So we've kept these extremely friendly for beginners. There are some moments in them that you'll feel more challenged, and that's obviously in there for a reason. We don't want you to feel like you're not progressing, but they should be very accessible. We've not gone too mad with a lot of bends, big bends, lots of little quarter note bends to get you used to doing things in the way that we would hope to do it eventually. Also a really important part with this one as well is I've not kind of stuck too much in a nut position. We do explore the fretboard a fair bit, and we look into how notes can be played in different places across the fretboard, so that it doesn't become this constant battle of what do I do between this and this. All these licks should kind of sort of stitch your fretboard together a little bit and make it a little bit more accessible. There's 30 of them to play, and the way we've done it, we've broken up the 12-bar blues into 4 bars 3 times, okay? So the first 4 bars, the next 4 bars, the next 4 bars. And we're going to kind of think of it as most of the licks are going to work no matter where you play them, but there are some that are very important to play in certain places where the chords are. So some of them will need to be played when the E chord's playing. You have to, you shouldn't really play it, otherwise we're going to get some clashing of notes that really won't sound that great. But if you look at the PDF, you'll notice that they are numbered, but they're also given a chord name as well. So when you look at the PDF and you see a 12-bar blues chord progression, it should make a little bit more sense where they should slot in. But if you're unsure, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it will just keep going in that order. So yeah, one final thing we've done with this, which is quite fun, we did it on the last one as well, is it's okay learning them, but you want to be able to use them. So we've put together like a cherry-picked version, which is me just playing one solo through a 12-bar blues, but I've just picked different ones. So if I remember correctly, I did number 10, number 5 and 27. So they're obviously not near each other particularly, but when you play them together, you'll notice that the video that you see straight after this is going to be a lot more like something you might hear in a song, but they are very unrelated in terms of the licks and how they've been written for the lesson. So think about that as well, about sort of how you might jumble them up and create your own phrasing, because these are not to be just played 1 to 30. You can really chop and change them, and then they're yours. You can just use them. These aren't mine. These are, every blues player in history has used these in different places. So it's how we combine them that kind of creates our own sound. So I hope you enjoy the lesson and have fun putting them together. But if you have a look at the next video, you'll see me kind of like cherry picking a few of them and see what you think. Okay, so lick number 1, this one works over any chord within the blues, but especially over the 1 and the 4, which will be the E7 and the A7. We're using the nut position of the E blues scale, or pentatonic minor scale if you're more familiar with that. We're starting on the 1st string, and we're on the 3rd fret, and we're going to do a quarter note bend. So rather than just playing the 3, we're just pushing it very slightly up. So you don't have to have a great bending technique. Beginners should be fine with this. Just note so you can hear the note moving a tiny bit. A little tip with that, just use your a supporting finger. So I'm using my 3rd finger to bend, but my 2nd finger, my middle finger, is behind it, just helping to push. If you're pushing with 1 finger, it's going to be a bit tricky. The next part, we're just going to use the open string as well. So 3 down to 0. And then we're going to move up to the 2nd string, the B string, and we're going to do a pull off from the 3rd fret to the open. So we play the 3, pull off, go back to the 3, and slide up to the 5. And this is a useful little thing to sort of to find early on the guitar is how we can get the same notes but in different places across the guitar. So this first string can actually be played on the 5th fret of the 2nd string as well. You get the same note, but obviously that gives me the ability to slide that note rather than just pick the string. The second half of this lick is just purely a run down the scale, so we're going from the 1st string we're going 3-0, again with that little bend. Then to the 2nd string 3-0 again. This time we're picking, we're not pulling off. 2 of the 3rd string, and then we're going to jump to the 4th string and do a hammer on from open to the 2nd. Okay, so lick number 4, this time we're going to be moving up the neck a little bit. We're playing in more of what we call a pentatonic major rather than minor, so this down here. You can kind of hear this tension that's happening. In this position, very kind of like a major kind of sound. So it's got a happier kind of quality. You'll find players like B.B. King especially, Peter Green, basically a lot of imitators of B.B. King basically use this sound quite a lot because it's a very singing kind of sound. So when you have a chord of E, it's more reminiscent of what a singer might sing over a blues progression because it's very in with the chords. We're playing a lot of chord tones. So on this one sort of important part of this is knowing what you should slide with. So we're just going to use our 3rd finger and we're going to slide up to the 11th fret of the 4th string from the 9. And the reason behind this is I want to have my 1st finger available to hit the 9 of the 3rd string afterwards. You notice that sets me up to just stay in position. If I slide my 1st finger, I'm then jumping back and forward, and that's going to give us a very broken kind of sound. So a lot of this play on this lick is going to go between the 4th and 3rd string, the 11th fret and the 9th fret. And then we kind of respond it with this little bend again. So similar to the starting quarter note bend, this time we're on the 11 of the 3rd string. You notice I'm not going. It's just teasing the note away from its pitch. And one thing that's quite common in a sort of these licks that we're using are that when we bend, you'll notice that there's a following note that is the same note but unbent straight afterwards and plucked. So it sort of it gives us that pitch back, so we're not sounding like we're out of tune. We want to sort of remind the listener that we know what we're doing still. And there's a small pull off there from the 11 to the 9. Back to that fourth string on the 11, and we end on the 9 of the 3rd string. Now the 9 of the 3rd string is an important note to end on because it's the note E. So when the chord is E, it's obviously going to be very in with the key. Okay, so staying in the similar position, we're going to aim for the 12th fret of the 1st string with a little slide up. Same rule as before actually on the lick. I'm using my 3rd finger because I know that I'm going to need my 1st finger for the next part of the lick, so just be aware of using your 3rd finger for that. Going to do the same slide again, and now that 1st finger is evident why we needed that. We're going to play the 10 of the 1st string. And similar to the other lick that we just played, I'm going to use a grace note again. This time on the 2nd string, we're going to slide back from 12 to 10. But again, remember, it's immediate. We're not playing it down like that. Immediately pulling that. And again, 3rd finger allows this 1st finger to be available for the 8th fret, which we're going to play next. And the next part, we're just going to go to the third string, and we're going to do a pull off from 9 to 7, and then play back on the 9. Okay, so in this phrase, very classic sound. If you're familiar with Hendrix's version of Hey Joe, you'll notice that it's got this kind of like this doubling note. So we're using the first string open, but we're going to slide up from the 3 to the 5 of the second string. Again, going back to that first lick that we spoke about, the fact you can find the same note in different places, you can get a unison effect, which is really nice. We're just going to play that 1, 2, 3, and there's 4 little hits. The third and fourth are a bit closer together. And then we're just going to do that little quarter note bend on the 3rd fret of the first string. And we could do that 2 ways, to be honest. We could, as we have done, play the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Or you could play the open string because it's the same note. Okay. The only reason I've chosen to play the 2nd string there is because when I'm holding it, we can add vibrato. And the rundown on this one, again, we're trying to open up our mind a little bit to the possibilities of finding notes in different places. We do the same little slide. Then we go to the 3rd fret, but we've still got that open first string. Now we're going to play the 4th fret on the 3rd string, which is the same note as the open 2nd string. Then we're going to play the 5th fret of the 4th string, which is the same note as the open 3rd string, and then down to the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Now, you could obviously play these in different places. You could do that. That sounds cool as well. What we're trying to do is just kind of give us options as what do these other positions give us. So the B, I've not really done too much with it. The note on the 4th string, the 5th fret, it's giving me the ability to pull it slightly. So I'm giving it a little quarter note bend. So the phrasing is that little bit closer to what we like to hear when we hear blues singers singing, and good blues guitarists playing as well. It's not just playing notes straight. They've got to have a little bit of an inflection. Okay, so just pulling that just down very slightly. Okay, so this is a very strong pentatonic minor sound on this one. A bit of a jump of pitch as well, going from the 15 of the 2nd string to the 12 of the 3rd string. It's a bit of a big interval jump, so it sounds a bit more modern than you might find in some more traditional Chicago blues stuff. So we're going from the 2nd string to the 3rd string and then immediately to the 4th string. So we're moving up quite quickly. But I'm using the 12th fret of the 3rd string with a little bend. Again, we want to kind of create that slurry sound. So 15 of the 2nd, 12 of the 3rd, a small pull, and then we're going to go to 14 of the 4th string, and we're going to do this little pull off to 12, back to the 14. I'm going to take the same lick again, but instead of going to the 14 of the 4th string like we did before, we're going to go to the 5th string, so it just extends the line, and then we're going to go back to the 4th string, 12 to 14. Okay, so moving in the territory now where we really want to think about the chord that's happening in the blues. This one is specifically for the E chord, so the 1 chord that happens. This can be used over the first bar, and in some blues over the first 4 bars, because sometimes we won't shift. So the E chord's happening, and we are highlighting a very important note in that, which is the 13th fret of the 3rd string. So if you play your blues scale or the pentatonic scale, you'll notice it has a 12 and a 14, it doesn't have a 13. So this is much more pentatonic major in sound, which you have to be very specific where you use that. So we're going to start off thinking about our fingers again, what finger we use to slide. We're going to use our middle finger this time because we're going to need fingers 1 and 3 either side of it. So we're going to slide from the 12 of the 3rd string up to the 13. And then first finger takes over on the 2nd string on the 12. 3rd finger takes over on the 14th fret of the same string. And then we're going to move down to the 1st string on the 12 for double notes. And again, remember, if you're going to vibrato that note, just push up away from it. We don't want to fall off the fretboard. And the next phrase, we're going to go to the 15 of the 1st string, just do a quarter note bend, down to the 12, pull off on the 2nd string 15 to 12, so that's a mirror, finishing on the 3rd string on the 14, and we're just going to use the 15 of the 2nd string to slide up to 17 this time. Okay. So again, that's our highest point so far. You'll notice again these are the same notes just being used in different positions. So this 17 is the same note as this 12 on the 1st string. So 12 on the 1st string, 17 on the 2nd string. It's five fret difference. Okay, so we're back into the sort of realm of sort of classic Chuck Berry kind of style now with a thing called a double stop. So the idea of this one is we're hitting 2 strings at the same time, which is going to be the 1st and 2nd string. We're going to lay our 1st finger flat across the 11th fret of both of those strings, so we get this sound when we pluck them both. And we're just going to slide them together to the 12. Now bear in mind, if you've not done this a lot, you'll notice your fingertips obviously are going to get a lot stronger and the calluses are going to get stronger, but you're going to use a different part of your finger for this bit, so bear in mind that that will build up its own kind of strength as well. But our picking style obviously is becoming a little bit looser because we need to hit 2 strings at once, so make sure that you're still hitting just those 2 strings, so the accuracy needs to be there, but you want to be a bit larger with your actual movement. And this part here, it kind of really is highlighting a complete E chord, so we're playing very much over an E when we do this. So sliding up from 11 to 12, I'm going down, up, down with the strumming, then I'm moving to the 3rd string on the 14, then I'm going to move that little bar that we did, I'm going to move it up, so it's the 2nd and 3rd string this time, and I'm going to hit them and hammer only the 3rd string on the 13. If you find that too tricky, just ignore both the notes, just hit the 3rd string 12 to 13. That will sound good as well, but with the double stop, you know, it's just a bit more chunky sounding. But don't worry if you can't do that yet, the other bit sounds great. So we're finishing that little phrase with a little hammer on, from that 12 to 13 on the 3rd string, we become 14 on the 4th string. And what we're going to do is kind of like repeat that, but with a double slide this time. So the 11 to 12 happens twice. And this time we're going to do it without the double stop on the 2nd and 3rd string. It's just 14, 12 hammering to 13 on the same string. Okay, so now we're kind of heading into a bit of a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of idea. This one's back where we began, so the technique might be a little bit more challenging for speed, but we're back in that nut position, so we're using those open strings to help us. We're starting with a small bend. Unfortunately, this time around, can't use our rule of bending away from the big strings. We will actually have to push into the D string slightly. So the 3rd string is going to just kind of half bend up, but you're going to lose it immediately because you're going to move on to the 2nd and 1st string open. So you don't really hear it reaching where it's meant to go. The B string, second string takes over. So bending middle finger, just put my first finger behind to help push. And a little tip with this one is to actually start the lick with an upstroke. Just due to the way you'll feel the beat, we're not starting on the downbeat, we're actually starting just before it. So that second string is actually on the beat. Okay, so we're going from that to back to the second string open, third fret of the second string, I'm going to push that with a quarter note bend, back to the first string open. Coming back to the note we started on, we can now pull down. And I'm doing a half note bend there, so pulling down, back to the 2, open, and on the fourth string we're just doing a little pull off, 2 to 0, back to the 2. There's a small little vibrato that's thrown in as well, so when you do a pull down, that little bit there. But don't worry if you can't fit those in at tempo, just practice them slowly.